Ave Legion and welcome to my channel. My name is Ludi and today we're going to do our EU4 1.30 starting moves guide for Ming. And this guide will be going over the achievements that you can get as states and economy, mandate and religion, early wars, later expansion, and the ideas that you should go for. I want to point out that Ming is a very different nation to play as compared to any other nation in the game, so do keep that in mind and pay close attention to everything I do in this video as it is going to be quite different. If we can get this video to 1,000 likes, then I am gonna do a giveaway for 2 copies of the EU4 Mandate of Heaven DLC. One achievement that is particular for Ming is Kowtow, where as Ming you need to have a subject from each religious group. When discussing the estates, the first thing you want to do is summon the diet and go for whichever agenda best suits you, followed up by seizure of land. That's gonna give you an extra 5% crownlands. This is especially needed since you actually start off with very little crownlands and we want to get above 30% to get rid of the negative debuffs that we start off with. The privileges that we'll be giving to the Qinhuang are the supremacy over the crown, monopoly on livestock, and monopoly on gemstones. For the Shizu, we're going to be giving the clerical ministers oversight by the Shizu and the monopoly on incense. And for the Shambang, we're going to give the free enterprises monopoly on textiles and paper and the exclusive trade rights. Do take note that in order to give out the monopolies, you need to have the Emperor DLC. Otherwise, give out the other privileges without the monopolies. Having given all of those monopolies and the exclusive trade rights means that we get an extra 8% mercantilism from the very start. As such, our trade power is going to be considerably bigger. Trade wise, we start off with the Beijing trade node, which is actually a very strong trade node as our home trade node, and we are obviously collecting here by default, and we're using the other 2 traders to transfer from Xi'an and Hangzhou into the Beijing trade node. Keep them there, and whenever you get more merchants, we're going to transfer some more from the other trade nodes into the south and from the one in the north in Jiren. It is actually extremely important that you get level 3 advisors, as we have one of our features here, namely Meritocracy, and in order to get Meritocracy you need to have good advisors as well as be the leader in various trades. Having 100% Meritocracy means you get minus 25% advisor costs, so we want to get that as soon as possible. Go for whichever advisors you will have available. It is extremely important that you go for level 3 advisors. As you can see, we are now getting a plus on our Meritocracy from the 3 advisors that we have. Since we are at the Celestial Empire screen, we're going to be discussing about the mandate as well as the meritocracies and even your tributaries. If you have the Mandate of Heaven DLC, and I recommend that you get it, you will have this screen available and all the features that come with it. You have certain decrees that you can give out for your nation, and these have some really good buffs, especially the national tax modifier plus 25%, provincial trade power plus 25, infantry combat ability plus 10, and the dev cost minus 10 and core creation cost minus 10 are really great. What I recommend you give out first from the very start is the national tax modifier, which is going to cost you 20 meritocracy, but for the next 10 years you get a lot of tax boosts, and you are going to increase your meritocracy yearly if you have the level 3 advisors. You also start off with some seriously bad leader and heir, so you want to disinherit this guy from the very start, and you want to get some royal marriages. I recommend you get royal marriages with some of your larger tributaries such as Viet as well as the other nations into the north. Be careful not to go over your diplomatic relation slots, however. When it comes to rivals, you can only rival Ashikaga at the very start, and then when it comes to your diplomatics, you will be able to get Mongquang and a few nations in the north of Manchuria sometimes, but I recommend not getting any allies because you really just don't need any allies. Because you are the Celestial Empire, you need to make sure that you maintain your mandate high, otherwise you're going to go into a lot of troubles here. In order to gain mandate, you need to have a lot of tributary states, have positive stability, so make sure that your stability is at 3 all the time, and have prosperity in your states. That means from the very start, make sure that you get prosperity in these states. In order to get that, you're gonna have to kill off your leader at some point and get a decent leader. That also means that you need to make sure no invader actually occupies your states so that your ticking prosperity always increases. On the other hand, you can lose mandate if you have devastation in your nation, if you have corruption in the country, or if you have loans. So as Ming, do not take loans, do not have corruption, and try not to have devastation in your nation. Once you get above 80 mandate, you can start enacting some of these celestial reforms, which will give you meritocracy, +1 diplomats and trade efficiency, monthly autonomy change, core creation cost -10, and monarch administrative skill +1 as the last reform. After you enact each one of these reforms, your your mandate is gonna go down, so you will have to fight off some rebels. Once that happens, make sure that your rebels do not get 10 provinces. If 10 provinces have been occupied by the rebels, a nation is actually gonna become independent and you're gonna lose those provinces. Also be careful, whenever your mandate is below 50, you get insanely bad debuffs such as goods produced modifier minus 50, national manpower minus 50%, fire and shock damage received plus 50, so that means your troops are gonna be paper. Ming also starts with its own religion, the Confucian religion, which is actually probably the strongest religion in the game. Yes, even stronger than Orthodoxy, simply because you can actually accept all of the other religions and make them as though they were your main religion by harmonizing with them. You can harmonize all the religions in the game, but you need to take into account the fact that it actually is going to take a few years to harmonize these religions, and harmonizing each religion will actually give you special boosts and benefits. At the very start, if you start harmonizing Vajrayana, then you're going to get production efficiency plus 5, Theravada gives you advisor cost minus 5%, and the pagan group gives you minus 0.5. I actually recommend that you start harmonizing your religion once your harmony is at least 75 or 80, as every month ticking whenever you're harmonizing lowers your harmony. When you go to low harmony, you get dev cost increase, tolerance of true faith minus, and yearly meritocracy minus 2. So we want to start harmonizing when we have around 70 to 80 harmony. Since we gave out the privilege clerical ministers, we are increasing our harmony yearly by a little bit more. Take into account that if you convert other provinces that are not Confucian, you will lose harmony according to these provinces' development. So by converting this 3 development province, I lose 3 harmony. As such, it's not really worth converting these provinces. In order to have a religion available for harmonization, then you need to have one of their provinces minimum and at least 20 development. So you can have a province that has 20 development that is Hindu, or you can have 3 provinces that together have 20 development which are Hindu, or any other religion for that matter. Ming also has a few missions, with the starting one being colonize Taiwan and afterwards having the Mandate of Heaven, which means they need to get a few more provinces around you in Korchin and into the south, as well as in the Karadel region. And eventually, once you have annexation of Viet, you get some admin points. Same for the other conquest, you get 20 prestige and 100 admin points. Nothing impressive, to be fair. You start off with quite a lot of armies, and what I recommend that you do is you manage to switch on over and get 12 infantry and 4 cavalry in each one of your armies until you get artillery at tech level 7. You also have 6 light ships. Make sure that you send these light ships in Hangzhou so that you increase the amount of trade that you get from Hangzhou, and that you set the other ships to hunt down pirates when needed in your trade nodes, just to make sure that you don't lose any trade power or mandate to the pirates, since one of the things that can happen is some of the nations here can privateer your trade nodes, and as such you're gonna lose mandate from that. Our first target is gonna be the nation of Korchin, as we want to take some of their provinces from here and we want to make them a tributary nation, so we're gonna be sending our armies into the north of China first. Also recommend that you focus on your admin points so that we increase our stability as soon as possible, and I also recommend that you actually ask all of your various tributaries for admin points as your first tribute. If it's not possible to get the admin points, then go ahead and ask for manpower. It is more worth it than cash from the nations that cannot give you anything else, as they do not have anything else available. With the tributary system, you have a few interactions. Basically every year these nations are going to give you some sort of tribute, as you can see here, whichever is available. You can also lower their liberty desire by 15% from sending them a gift, and this can be done as many times as needed. You also can ask for additional tribute, which is going to give you some cash but also increase their liberty desire by 25%. So for example, if a nation has 0% liberty desire, then you can demand additional tribute, which is going to give you a little bit of cash if you want to. And from some of the bigger nations, you can actually get quite a lot of cash from the very start. We almost reached 1,000 treasury from getting tributes from our tributaries. Don't forget to also send an insult to Ashikaga, which is going to give you another 5 power projection. Also embargo them afterwards. One more thing you need to take care of as the Mandate of Heaven is the disasters that come with it. If your mandate is below 50 and you have above 30% non-overseas autonomy, then you're going to get a civil war. If you have unguarded nomadic frontiers, that means if one of your hordes up in the north here has above 300 development and is not a tributary or an ally, then your nation is going to get absolutely destroyed, as you're going to get liberty desire and subjects plus 25, morale of armies minus 15, and mandate growth minus 0.3. The third disaster is the crisis of the Ming dynasty. democracy, which will happen after the Age of Discovery, so after the 1500s, when you have less than 50 mandate. This is almost guaranteed that you're gonna go through this crisis, and it's fine. Make sure you have enough troops to fight off the rebels, as after you finish the crisis, it will not trigger a second time. As I previously mentioned, ensure that you have 12 infantry and 4 cavalry in each one of your armies, and you are gonna modify this template, and you're gonna go up to 16 infantry and 4 cavalry after you get military tech 5, as that is when you have an increase of 50% in your supply limit. This is extremely important, as war exhaustion is going to go up by a lot if you have attrition when you're going through provinces, and we don't want to have that attrition, which is why we're going to keep our armies at 12 infantry and 4 cav until tech 5, and afterwards we're increasing this to 16-4, and after tech 7 we're going to get another 4 artillery units to help out with the sieges. Use the unified China CB against Korchin and rush for their cities. It's going to be a very easy war. Usually Korchin allies some of the tribes into the north of Manchuria, and we want to set them up as our tributaries also, so it is a really good target at the very start of the game. Don't forget to also recruit a couple of generals. If you're lucky, you're going to get a siege pip to help out with sieging down all of the provinces. Also, if you're going for the unified China CB, you're going to get the war for the Celestial Empire, which gives you mandate growth plus 0.05, which is why you should go for the unified China CB. Whenever you get events such as the Shanfu Linghu, go for the prestige, as we really need to boost up our prestige since we disinherited our heir in order to get something better, which we already have. Also, do not forget to boost up your stability every time that you can. Boost it up from the very start, as you are going to get 0.02 per each stability level that you have. Make a tributary out of whichever co-belligerated horde nation Korchin had, and that's going to cost you a bit of aggressive expansion, but it's nothing to worry. It's literally with the nations in the north here, so we don't need to worry about them too much. Bring your troops back home, and because they're going to be a bit disloyal, you will have to improve relations with them, as well as bestow a few gifts to get them back to loyalty. When it comes to Korchin itself, you have two options. The first one would be to just make them a tributary and take these 2 provinces from the south. I actually recommend that you take these 4 provinces from the south and that you make them cancel rivals to get some more prestige from the beginning, and after the next war we're gonna make them a tributary. It is not a massive issue if you don't make them a tributary from the very beginning, so don't worry about it too much. It's more important that we get these 4 provinces from the start to get the full Chahar state here. Core up everything that you took, and let's march on over to the border with the Oirats, as our second war is gonna have to be with the Oirat hordes. One thing that is specific to the Ming is some very bad events that start increasing your devastation in the nations because of failed reigns or various events like that. Now, the thing is, if you have a fort or if your province is within the area of control of a fort, then that is gonna negate the debuff. When we start off, we don't have that many forts, and because prosperity is our most important thing as the Ming, and because we don't want to have devastation in our nation, we need to increase the amount of forts that we have to make sure that they almost include every single province. As such, we're gonna have to build some forts. First one would be in Yangzhou, which is gonna cover a lot of provinces everywhere around it. Build a second fort in Huizhou, one more in Tingzhou, another one in Yuanling, and the last one, whenever you get the cash for, in Limchou. One good way of getting that cash is just basically demanding some additional tribute from your many tributary nations. After you got the tributes, go ahead and build the last fort in Limchou. Later down the line, we're gonna build more forts into the northern area to protect ourselves better, but these initial forts are absolutely mandatory to make sure that most of our country is covered from a zone of control of a fort, and as such, we don't need to worry about devastation in any of the areas that are within the zone of control of a fort. Before you declare war on the Oirats, make sure that you have your troops by the border with them. Keep a couple more units on the other side of the border so that you can deal with Mongolia at the same time and go belligerate whatever nations they might be allied with. After you've declared war on the Oirats, you're gonna get the Tumu Crisis event, which is gonna make your ruler a 1000 general. This is extremely important. Make sure that you do not put your ruler in command of any army whatsoever, since if you have an army with your ruler leading it and you engage with the Oirats and you lose that battle, then they're gonna get an event which basically captures your emperor, and they instantly own all of the northern part of the Ming Empire, and you're gonna get a massive debuff for the next few years. The war against the Oirats is not gonna be very hard. They have considerably less troops than you do, so it's not gonna be any any sort of issue. Make sure that you make a tributary out of all the other nations that they were allied to before anything else, and take the money they have as well. Don't stress about coalitions. It's literally going to be just some of the Manchu tribes, but even if they all join up against you, they will never be able to defeat you. After making a tributary out of their allies, if they had any, go ahead and make them also a tributary, and also make sure that you take a couple of provinces from them, as you are able to include that in the peace treaty. Peace them out, and now you don't have to worry about the nomadic frontier being unguarded anymore, as the nomads are your tributaries right now, except for Mongolia, but they are a vassal of the Oirats, and they will be integrated into the Oirats later on. Do remember, you still have to attack Korchin after the truce expires to make them a tributary, or to just simply annex them fully. It is up to you, whichever one you decide to go for. Also, by this time we should have all of our forts finished, and as you can see, the majority of our country is covered by forts. As such, we don't need to stress about these provinces having devastation at any point. You also can build a few more forts in the provinces of Luan as well as Chongqing to cover a lot more of these provinces here, and later down the line, whenever you start conquering more lands, build additional forts to cover the other lands. Oirats and Udege are going to be disloyal, but as always, just bestow a couple of gifts here that's actually not even that expensive, and they're going to be back to loyal, which means that we can start asking them for whichever tribute we desire from them. After taking care of the northern borders, you want to start expanding into Cham and afterwards Tsang and make your way into India, since we want to make all of the Indian nations here our tributaries. Otherwise, later down the line in the game, one of these nations is going to come out on top, and we're going to have a massive non-tributary bordering us, which is not something that we want. Ideas wise, I actually recommend going for exploration ideas first. As Ming, you definitely have a great chance of exploring all of these areas in the Southeast Asian part of the world and colonizing them. Of course, start off with Taiwan, make your way into the Philippines and into the Malaccan parts, and make these extra nations lying around here your tributaries to boost up your mandate. As a second idea set, I recommend going for humanist ideas, simply because you will not be able to convert all of your provinces to your religion without losing harmony, and rebels are going to be a massive issue for you, so you definitely need to get the national unrest, tolerance of heretics, years of separatism, and tolerance of heathens, as well as yearly harmony increase plus 0.25 and idea cost minus 10 that humanist ideas offer. You also can mix in exploration with humanist and get an extra global settlers plus 10 and native assimilation plus 50%. As a third idea, it definitely depends on whether you have extra admin, diplo, or military, but most likely you will have military points lying around. And because you're always going to be struggling with manpower from lowered mandate, what I'd recommend going for first is going to be quantity ideas, which offsets the debuff that you get whenever your mandate is below 50, since you get minus 50 national manpower. If you get quantity ideas, then you're going to get plus 50 national manpower, so you basically don't lose out on the manpower whenever your mandate is lowered, and you will be struggling with manpower whenever you're fighting off the countless rebellions that you will have throughout the game as Ming, especially until you finish all of your celestial reforms. Another really great military idea is going to be the offensive ideas, as you also need to boost up the quality of your troops. But that being said, until you finish with the celestial reforms, I recommend going for quantity ideas. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, as well as leave the bell button on to get notified whenever I release new guides such as this one. I also want to give a very big shout out to all my patrons and channel members. Thank you so much, guys, from the bottom of my heart. You've been helping me out so much in these past few weeks, and it means the world to me. If anybody else wants to become a patron, then you can check the links in the description for both patrons and channel members. So until the next one, have a great day, everyone.